we got to look at that through a prism of Jaylen Brown. The question of the day up now at Jones and Mego. You can weigh in on the phones. Who's leading the Celtics thus far in the postseason? Is it Jaylen? Is it Tatum, Mego?
So I think what's most telling about this is that it's a question at all. That it can be a question at all that people are at least somewhat divided on. And just looking at the poll that we put out on Twitter at Jones and Mego, Jaylen Brown is dominating. 77% of the poll says that he's the one who's leading. And so I look at it, these guys are both averaging about 25 points per game. Jaylen Brown is being more efficient in his shooting. Jason Tatum is better on the boards, like he's better on the glass. He's a better creator if you look at his assists. But I don't know how you look at where they are in the playoffs right now and say anyone but Jaylen Brown. Like the Jaylen Brown, the way he carries himself, what he demands from his teammates, the way that he's been attacking this series in particular, and just honestly, like 30% of it at least to me is just waving off the distractions from the all NBA snub last night. Just saying like, I don't have time to give an F about that. 2 games away from the finals. Everything about the way he's been carrying himself through these playoffs tells me that this is his team right now. And that's not to disparage Jason Tatum, because really the only area where Jason Tatum is coming up short is his dismal 3-point shooting.
Okay, so I agree. Right now, they're playing like it's Jaylen's team. They're up 2-0 in the Eastern Conference Final because of Jaylen Brown, not because of Jason Tatum, because of Jaylen Brown. He hit the biggest shot in Game 1. He had 40 last night in Game 2. So the answer is Jaylen Brown. And you're right, Mego. The fact that it's a question is interesting enough in and of itself.
Compared to 2 years ago.
It's a landslide right now at Jones and Mego. And I think the people are right. I just think it's interesting to just put a number to it on looking at it 2 ways, how high people are on Jaylen Brown or how low they are on Jason Tatum and his play right now. And it's not like Tatum's been awful. It's not like Tatum is out there and, he's scoring 15 points a night on 3 out of 20 shooting, and he's turning it over a million times, although he had 4 turnovers last night.
He was 1 for 7 from behind the arc.
Yeah, so it's not like he's awful, but Jaylen right now is clearly playing at a higher level. And that's a small sample size. I'm really basing it mostly on these 2 games in the Eastern Conference Final, but I think most people agree with that. So I don't think it's a debate. I just want to see the number and put a number to it. And, like, if you think it's Jason Tatum, I'd love to hear from you on the phones, but most people don't. And I just want to see and really measure out how skewed it is towards Jaylen Brown, which is a way of saying Tatum isn't playing at a high enough level. In my opinion, that's what we're really saying in that poll. Because to me, Mego, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable to win a championship if Tatum plays at this level and Jaylen Brown needs to sustain that level, and that's how you have to win. Jaylen Brown putting up 40. Jaylen Brown hitting clutch shots to force overtime. If that's what you need to beat the 6-seeded and now banged up, lost Halliburton last night, Indiana Pacers, if that's what you need, good luck against those teams out west. That, to me, is not sustainable. So I'll say the same thing I keep saying. Tatum needs to elevate his play. He had a great overtime in Game 1. He had a terrible fourth quarter. I think he was up and down in that Cleveland series. Game 5 was excellent. If they want to win a title, they're going to need more because you can't lean on Jaylen Brown, I don't think, night in and night out the way they've leaned on him the last 2 games.
I agree. I think this series is very favorable towards Jaylen Brown's style of play. Like I can't talk for some reason, just attacking the paint. Like, I think that.
Yeah, it's fast paced. It's up and down.
Exactly. It's just
transition
running gun,
is his game. Yeah.
He and Drew Holiday both really thrive in that environment. And I think you see that playing out in this series right now. If you're looking at the playoffs overall, though, which is how I'm attacking it, not just this series, which is so clearly Jaylen Brown's moment. Jason Tatum has had moments too. If you look at Game 3 in the Cavs series, that's the game where Tatum kind of finally woke up. He dropped 33 points. He had 13 rebounds. There was all the reports that came out after the game of the players saying he was the one in the locker room who was vocal and was challenging everybody to, actually bring their game because they had just lost that Game 2 in that series. So it's not like Tatum has been a total no-show and totally flat. I'm more than anything surprised that Jaylen Brown continues to reach this level. Like, I have seen this from Jaylen at times in the postseason in different playoff stretches last year, the year before. But even last year when he earned that Supermax contract, I was like, yeah, that's the best Jaylen Brown you're ever going to get. So think about that when you're giving him the Supermax contract. You're paying for what you saw last season. He's better this year. Like, he is better this postseason. And so part of me is actually just questioning what you said, where you say this is not sustainable. I don't think it's sustainable once you're in the finals that you can count on Jaylen Brown every single night. But quite frankly, you haven't been able to count on Jason Tatum every single night through these playoffs, and they've sustained it thus far because the field's been so easy.
Okay, right. But that to me is the discussion, right? Is if you need this out of Jaylen Brown, can he do it? But you need Jaylen Brown to do it because Tatum's not doing it. And that to me is what's not sustainable. But I agree with you. When they gave Jaylen Brown the contract, I'm like, look, it's a bad contract. I'd pay it. Like,
every contract's a bad contract.
I don't want to lose.
Like
well,
that.
No, I disagree with that. Like, some guys are worth Jaylen Brown to me wasn't worth a supermax. Like, some guys
good
are.
Now.
You're
saying he's the best player on the team and they're bound for the finals.
Oh, I've said he's played past tense the best. But, that's how he's playing at a higher level than Jason Tatum. But what I will say, and I said this in real time, I'm like, I don't think it's a good contract. I think they're overpaying him. I don't think he's worth the supermax. I'd give it to him because I don't want to lose him. But I think you're overpaying. I did put out the caveat that I've been wrong about Jaylen Brown 8 billion times in his career. I've traded him for like every player in the league. I was there booing him on draft night when he was selected.
You traded him for James Harden.
I've traded him for so many people. I've traded him for Anthony Davis and James Harden, and I mean, I don't even know the list anymore. Kawhi, like some I stand by. If you would have traded him for Kawhi, you would have won a title instead of Toronto. And maybe you'll win your title now. But like, I've traded him 8 billion times. Most of them I would have been wrong about. Okay? But Jaylen Brown continues to prove me wrong, and maybe he'll keep doing it. Maybe it is sustainable. Maybe he can do it at a high level. By the way, Jaylen Brown talking that talk after the game. Let me hear his thoughts on, not just being snubbed from All-NBA, which you already heard, but Jaylen Brown on haters like me. Go ahead, Jaylen.
People have discussed about some of the things you have not been able to do as opposed to things you can do. Do you feel like you're overlooked, slighted, underrated? And does that motivate you? Does that piss you off privately when you're working out? Like, do you see what's written about you? You see what's said about you, and you keep a low profile off the floor. But how does that motivate you or push you?
I mean, I watch guys get praised and anointed. I feel like it's half as talented as me on either side of the ball. But at this point in my life, I just embrace it. It comes with being who I am and what I stand for, and I ain't really changing that. So I just come out, and I'm grateful to step out on the floor each and every night and put my best foot forward. I get better every single year, and whether people appreciate it or not, it is what it is.
Ooh, Jaylen, name him.
Okay, well, yeah. Well, first of all, who's he talking about?
I think I have an idea.
Who would you guess?
Yeah, who do you think?
Right.
Devin Booker?
Devin Booker for sure. I think and again,
if he thinks Devin Booker is half as talented as him, he's nuts. I mean, that's stupid.
I think
if he's talking about Halliburton or somebody like that, fine. But if he's talking about Devin Booker, he's insane.
I think he's talking about the new darling of the NBA right now. I think he's talking about Anthony Edwards.
Ooh.
You think everybody's talking about Anthony Edwards?
Because everybody's talking about Anthony Edwards. More people are talking about Anthony Edwards than Jaylen Brown, and Jaylen Brown has shown up to more playoff games this postseason than Anthony Edwards has.
If they're half as talented as me, he says. So he also said, I don't give an F. Like, I don't give an F about being snubbed. Yeah, you sound it, Jaylen, but whatever. I had this backwards yesterday. I'm like, is he going to go out and prove a point and it's going to get in the way of the team and screw him up? Or is he going to play within the team? Well, it turns out it was neither. He went out, proved a point, and they won going away. And so who's been the most valuable player, or let me reword, who's leading the Celtics right now? Is it Jaylen Brown? Mego and I agree on this. Or Jason Tatum? Most of you agree in the big question of the day up now at Jones and Mego. We'll talk to you on the phones here shortly. But Ryan Garvin, back in our Brighton studios, you disagree? You think it's Jason Tatum?
Yeah, I still think it's Jason Tatum. And for everything that you just said, Jones, about Jaylen Brown, I've been basically the complete opposite. I would not have traded him for anything. I loved that draft pick. I have been a big Jaylen Brown fan since he got here. In fact, I've probably been more critical of Jason Tatum in the last couple of years than I have of Jaylen Brown. But as it stands right now, like just looking at what Jason Tatum has done in the postseason, he's not having bad games. He's just not playing to the level that I think that he can play at. But he's still a matchup problem. I still expect big things from him, and he still finds a way to get himself going in these games. Like, I was not the least bit surprised that Jaylen Brown has taken the approach that he did and came out and just bulldogged all over the Pacers really in these last two games. But I think when it comes to like who you need to step up consistently for this team in an all-around fashion, by the way, offense and defense, I still think that this team goes as Jason Tatum will go going forward.
I don't. Okay,
but I agree with that.
Yeah, look. The question. No offense, Ryan, but the question isn't is Jason Tatum good? Only an idiot's gonna disagree with you. Okay. Like,
Yeah,
I-
no disrespect, Ryan, you idiot.
no, only an idiot is going to say Jason Tatum's not good. Don't isolate that again. The question is, whose team is it right now? It feels like Jaylen Brown's team right now.
I know what you're saying. It feels like, and I'm saying it still feels like it's Jason Tatum's team. Jaylen Brown's been good. Jaylen Brown's been very good. They win that game last night because of Jaylen Brown. I still say it's Jason Tatum's team.
Okay. Well, you can jump in on this 617-779-7937.